I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Breezy Point City Council. The date is Tuesday, September 5th, 2017, and this is the regular meeting. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody. Just like to thank everybody for coming today. It's such a beautiful day. First order of business is the consent calendar. You have before you the council minutes for August 7th, 2017, and we have the approval of claims for a total of $303,635.35, which includes electronic checks 1890E through 1891E, 189E, and then paper checks 133722, 133 through 133749, and 133752 through 133785, and then the partial payment to for the paving in White Birch 6 totaling $160,733.35. Is there anything anybody would like to pull off the consent calendar and discuss separately? Councilman Maroney? No. Councilman Mitchell?
No.
Councilman Ball?
No.
Councilman Bakken?
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar as written.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, all those in favor of the consent calendar indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved as written. Next item is the open forum. Anybody wishing to bring anything before the city council at this time can do so. Just come to the microphone, state your name and address, and address the council. Open forum is open. Nope.
Maury Wallers, 8871 Birch Lane, Breezy Point, Minnesota. Little concern about the road project that was turned down, basically, or not turned down, how would you say that? The guy with his ability to build on an unimproved road. Seems like we need to be looking ahead and planning ahead somehow. Right? Maybe you are, I don't know. So that if people want to build, there would be a process, or maybe he had a process and he didn't like it or whatever. I don't know what it all amounts to. But they would become taxpayers to the city of Breezy Point, so which would be a benefit. But the road improvement project, I don't know. So
Yeah.
Somebody has to answer that.
Yeah. Basically, the guy's name was Dan Lucas. I did look into it, as I said I would in the last meeting, and wrote him a letter indicating that there is a process to get that road paved, and it would require petitioning all of the people on that road to get up to 75%, I think, 70% of the people on that road to agree to having the road paved, and we would do it and outline the steps that that would take. And I did look at the road. He was talking about it being a hard paved road. It's not really hard, it's fine sand. You know, if he brought in construction equipment, he'd get it all torn up and it would be a mess. So that's one of the reasons that we do not issue permits for unimproved roads.
It's probably not the first one.
It's
That
probably
was-
not, and will probably won't be the last, but the mechanism is there.
Okay.
You know, so if he gets 70% of the people to agree to it, and then it can be done.
Okay.
Just curious.
Anybody else? Open forum is closed. Next item of business is the mayor and city council reports. I did have a couple people pigeonhole me during the last month about putting in a street light next to the fishing pier. That's kind of a dark section, and with the improved pier that we have out there, we are getting a lot of people out there, and I said I would bring it up and want to look at it, and there is a power pole there, so we would have a pole that wouldn't require anything. I did talk to Joe a little bit about it, and all we have to do is petition to Crowing Power, and they can come out and put it up for us, and it's minimal amount, maybe $15, $20 a month.
Something like that, yeah.
That is not
Yeah.
very much.
No.
Because of the increased use in the fishing pier, I think it would probably be a good idea. So as part of my time here, I would propose a motion that we would direct staff to follow up and look into putting in a light on that pole next to the fishing pier.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion? Councilman Maroney, thoughts on it?
Well, I'm not opposed to having street lamps. My only concern, well, a few concerns, is one, what's the precedent that we're setting for just putting a street lamp on? If somebody comes down and says, I want it on my road, are we gonna do it? And really, I know there's a large part of the community that is opposed to having, I'm gonna mispronounce what it is, but basically the ambient lighting in the air. So to move forward with doing it right away, I'm nervous on doing that.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons I went to look at it. There's no houses in that general area, so I didn't feel light pollution would be a significant issue. Street lights are always directed downward. And that is a very dark section along Breezy Point Drive there. So I can see we can probably justify it. We don't have a street light policy where we have them throughout the city, so that would have to be created first if we were ever going to do them. So I didn't, in my own mind, I didn't think it would be a huge issue. And I thought because of the activity at the dock, I thought it would be a good idea. So I said I'd bring it up and see how the council.
Perfect. And I'd probably say I'd probably want a month to think about it myself, but that's me.
Okay. Councilman Mitchell.
Kevin, the streetlights significantly decrease the rate of crime on a street intersection or corner?
Well, we don't have much crime,
No, I understand that.
but it is a deterrent. I agree with Michael that light pollution is an issue, but I'm hoping that current technology eliminates a lot of that. But yeah, that is a dark spot, and we do have the walking path is also there, so it would have a benefit for that as well.
Councilman Paul.
I think it's helpful to know there's no houses around.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm not opposed to that
Yeah.
motion.
Councilman Bakken.
Agreed with everything the mayor stated, and I think it's defensible to have that down there. I noticed there people fish there in the evening was early evening, and it's nice to have that light, so that's all I have to say. I'm all for it.
Okay. And the only thing, we're just going to direct the staff to look into it, and that's the motion would be. So, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll have the staff look into seeing what it takes and come back to us next month and with some details. Also, the next thing I'd like to remind the council is that it's due for the comp plan committee to be bringing the names of those people that are going to be on the core project team. We have a scheduled meeting for October 23rd, 2017. However, we're not really going to be getting into more of the details, but I would like to have all of the names of the members that are going to be on the comp plan from, Parks, Cemetery Commission, Roads, Public Works, and from planning and zoning, that would be on the team. I think we're going to be having a little bit of conflict of interest with the project manager for the comp plan at that period of time, so we won't have a formal meeting on it. But if I can get the names from the liaisons, if you can go back to your groups, get me the names so we can start moving forward on that, and then we will start having meetings starting in 2018. Then, from what Maury Wohlers was saying, I did follow up and look into the Sun Valley Lane where the guy wanted to put in the, wanted to have a house built on a minimum maintenance road. I did follow up with a letter. Joe assisted me in getting a letter, putting together the whole process is how he goes through and to get to have that paved, or it's balls basically in his court to get that done. We have a lot of minimum maintenance roads in the city, and the roads committee will set those priorities as they come up, but they are on the radar. We will be looking at them eventually. Also, I did follow up on the skunks. That was done from a distance, but I did meet with Bob Spizo, and it just turns out that they had met with Bob Spizo that Friday morning, and by Friday afternoon he had those garbage cans out of there and all cleaned up. It may take a while for the skunks to go away just because they're there, but the source that was keeping them there has all been dealt with. He had put in a new trash compactor, so there won't be any garbage and stuff like that sitting out there for them to get to. Council members, Councilman Barone.
P&Z had 3 different public hearings last month, 2 of which we have in front of us tonight. Third was to relocate a home at the corner of Ranchette and County Road 11. That was denied, though, for the conditional use permit. Other than that, nothing else to report.
Councilman Mitchell.
No.
Councilman Ball.
I don't have anything to report.
Councilman Bakken.
I'll be quick. Cemetery Commission voted unanimously to use or allow the gazebo for funeral services out there for the services. Second thing on the cemetery, Landsberg, and I believe John was out there, according to Kathy, finished the landscaping, and she tells me it's excellent. I didn't know he was going to be out there, or I would have been there, Kathy. So my apologies to you, and I'll take care of John later. 2 other things. First of all, it came to our attention at the last cemetery meeting that Jason's been without a contract for the year, I'm assuming for the year 2017, which as liaison I have a little bit of egg on my face, and as past chair of that commission. So I'll take my whipping. I don't know how that happened, but they intend to get that taken care of going into 2018, I would assume.
And 19.
And 19. He hasn't had a raise in 5 or 6 years, I think is what stated at the meeting. Kathy, remind me, or help my memory there.
It's been a little while.
It's been quite a while, and he's proposing a 2.5% raise for what he does out there, and folks, that's a bargain, believe me. So I am all for that. Lastly, Kathy and I put together a chronology and history of the cemetery from its beginning planning stages through the construction stages, and I took it home and looked at it myself and refined it very, very little bit, left it in Kathy's capable hands. That was done at the mayor's request to be part of the new comp plan that goes forward, and the history carried with it into perpetuity. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is we have the final plot for the Copper Road Edition, which is Resolution 1716. The Planning Commission has reviewed and recommended approval of the preliminary and final plots of the Copper Road Edition. The property is approximately 12.3 acres, and subdivision will be 6 lots of approximately 2 acres per lot. 5 of the lots are on the lake shore, and 1 is off the lake shore. And the memo that you have here, there's, in the 3rd paragraph, it identifies several things that need to be corrected on that final plot. You have a revised edition of the final plot, as well as a revised Resolution 1716 with the strikeouts of the things that had to happen that are indicated in paragraph 3. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's been through planning and zoning. It's had public hearing, and they have recommended approval. So at this point, I will take a motion to approve the revised final plot, or the final Resolution 1716, to approve the final plot for the Copper Road Edition.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Councilman Barone, I'll start with you since you're the liaison to planning and zoning.
I have nothing further to add.
Okay, 'cause I thought the memo was pretty comprehensive. and
Well written.
Yeah. Councilman Mitchell.
I've got some questions concern me a little bit. One, I have a question for Joe. Joe, how deep is the frost line in this area, like in the area of that road?
It's gonna vary anywhere from 2 to, seen it as deep as 8 feet in road beds where it's exposed. But typically it's the same depth as ice on the lake.
Okay, so it said in here that it's gonna be laid shallow. How shallow is that line gonna be laid?
Right at your minimums. I mean, I want to recall the shallowest point's probably 4 feet. It's not unusual for sewer lines to be in frost, given proper slope. I mean, the water drains out. Most septic systems, your sewer line is encased in frost, but because the line drains, it doesn't pose a problem with regular use. It could be a concern, but I think the pumps would certainly help because it'd be a surge of water instead of a trickle. That's typically where you see problems with sewer lines, is when the water is very slow, it will freeze and kind of layer up. So,
And it's our responsibility to thaw that line out if it freezes?
yes.
And I noticed they talked about having a pump so that they can fill that line. My concern is, it also said that you'd plow snow over that to try and help, but we've had winters, just moving here from Ely a few years ago, it's not long ago, Ely had 160 frozen sewer lines, because we didn't get any snow. And so, that's my concern. And how hard is it to thaw out if it should get frozen?
It's manageable. We have a jetter that it'll put 40 gallons a minute at roughly 3,000 psi of water, and our tanker holds 1,500 gallons, and the jetter itself, I believe, holds 1,000. The last frozen line we had is approximately right around 200 feet, and it took us probably 25 hours to bore through it, but that was a rather unusual case. It was froze tight, I mean, tighter than we normally experience.
Yeah, my thought is if they sell these lots to seasonal people and there's only 1 or 2 that live year round, if any, and then they come out and run some water in there, it really doesn't, that really isn't enough to keep that line open. So my question to you is, are you comfortable with this the way it is?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I think the plans are sort of preliminary as far as how the sewer line would go. There may be adjustments. For example, more cover material placed on the lines is an option if when you actually get to the site, depending how installation goes. And the pumps, these homes won't have the trickle you normally associate because they essentially have a small holding tank. And the way they typically work is they fill up the pump. When they're full, it turns the pump on and it'll pump whatever the tank is, say it's 50 or 100 gallons at one time. So you don't see the layering from typically what is the primary problem for most homes is furnaces, because they will their condensation is a very low trickle and that'll go down their sewer line very slowly. And that's what we see mostly is people's service lines freeze from that. But as far as our gravity lines in the city, we're really only have one line that we are aware of can be a problem, and the last time it was a problem was many cities had dozens to hundreds of frozen lines, and we had one, so we're aware of it, and they're easy to monitor. I mean, it's as long as there's not hundreds, it's very manageable.
Gary, if I may say, I think this is a great discussion to have. The plans right now, they have been submitted to be reviewed, and nothing is final in that set that talks about the depth of the sanitary sewer and whatnot. So these would be conversations that I would have with Joe and other co-workers of mine. But yeah, insulating the adequate amount and finding out what sort of history Breezy Point has with similar situations, would be comfortable with what was being approved, and the I guess the contingent items of approving the plat. One of them is that the plans need to be reviewed and approved by the city engineer, who would be consulting with the city.
One of the things Gary and I were talking about just before the meeting was if we had access, or just an access point over by lot 1, which would be the high end, then we could bring the tanker over there and then flush water down there like we do on Airport Road, just as just as a contingency. I don't know if those would be into your final plans or not. It wouldn't show up on here, but as far as the plot, it's a no never mind, but it's the type of thing that we may want to consider later on. Anything else?
One other thing, all the lake shore along there is actually all 5 lots have wetland, and my question is that monitored some way? So if they try to put a road through there, it has to be engineered properly, etc. I know the DNR looked at it. They were fine with delineation of the wetland, but it does cut almost all except the 5th one off from the lakeshore by wetlands. And my thought is if they put a road through there, do something, and you get heavy rains, that's going to run into the lake.
Do you want to speak to that?
Any proposed impacts to those wetlands would be in the county and the Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction. So if they're proposing any, like I said, wetland impacts, they're going to have to be permitted for them.
Okay.
And the County Wetland Conservation Act and the Army Corps of Engineers would have to approve it.
Okay.
And the solution to that is that you just build a longer dock. You start your dock above the wetland and then you just run across it.
Island.
Yep. There's
Yeah.
a classic example over on the very far end of Pelican Lake, where a guy must have a 500-foot dock that runs through the wetland to get out to Pelican Lake. And it's not a difficult thing to deal with.
Okay.
Councilman Ball.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance, or resolution 1716 as amended.
Also move.
Second? Second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question.
Tom, we already had a motion and a second.
Well, we did.
Rebecca and Gary
Oh,
Bakken, I believe.
ahead of myself. Okay. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The preliminary plot is approved. Next order of business is floodplain ordinance. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of interest in floodplains with everything that went on down in Houston. We have received our information from FEMA regarding the floodplains, and we received the floodplain maps. And what this requires is an update to the existing ordinance that we have for ordinance 1704. That controls the building in areas subject to periodic flooding. The ordinance that we have has been is slightly modified from the model that was given to us by the DNR, but they've reviewed that and indicated that it meets the federal guidelines. The adoption of the ordinance will place restrictions on expansion and redevelopment of properties within the city. And this is basically just to minimize and eliminate property damage in the event of flooding. And it also allows any property owners in the community to purchase federally subsidized flood insurance regardless of location. We have ordinance 1704, and I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance 1704.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Councilman Maroney, I'll start with you.
We had a public hearing last month, discussed it in length, and really it comes down to there's no con to having this done. It's all pros. So the Planning Commission felt the need to forward it on to us.
Okay. Councilman Mitchell.
Okay.
Councilman Wall.
I was just curious, what were the changes that were made substantive to the?
No, it was just like changing names and
Okay.
circumstances, making the numbers match our system. That was about
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Councilman Bakken.
Only one question. Do we know when we can buy some?
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. It has to be published, the summary has to be published, and then it becomes effective, and after that, I guess it's up to the DNR and others.
Can you research
I will find out for you.
for me? Thank you.
Yes, I will find out.
some now. Yesterday.
All right, I'll do that.
All those in favor of adopting ordinance 1704, say aye. Aye. Ordinance 1704 is adopted. I'll entertain a motion to publish a summary in the paper. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of publishing the summary ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is our preliminary budget for 2018. And you have a relatively long memo that Joe has summarized the changes and things for the upcoming 2018 budget. Right now, we're looking at 4% increase. And so this is actually pretty good for us. It essentially gives us money to work with, and it doesn't really significantly increase the taxes. Joe, I'll let you kind of give an explanation.
Well, there's a lot of material here, and,
Yeah.
and I'm not quite sure what you'd like to hear,
Maybe
but
just hit the highlights.
we're talking about a 4% increase overall. We saw a 3.1% growth in market value of properties for this year. That doesn't equate to market value is tax capacity because of different property values. For the most part, the budget hasn't changed a whole great deal, but there is a lot of things that we have yet to figure out, such as the union contract for next year, and that could have some effect on this. There's a 3% increase in salaries figured out overall. We over budgeted just a little bit in health insurance last year, so we're not seeing a significant increase in that. We did see a nice change in liability insurance by making a change to the liability contract for North Ambulance. Saved us $7,000 to $8,000 a year, and so that's shown as a reduction, but the cost is also shown in public works, or excuse me, public safety. You know, generally speaking, it's pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think we've got some room to make some adjustments down the road and possibly reduce it if you so choose.
Finance committee is kind of given this preliminary
Yep.
review between myself and Councilman Bakken.
Yep, you know, we'll continue to work on this budget over time. The budget hearing will be in December, and at that time, we'll make a final decision as to what the levy will be.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the preliminary levy and budget for 2018. So move. Your second.
I'll second.
Councilman Bakken, I'll start with you since you're on the
I have none.
committee.
Oh, kudos to Carrie for
Yes.
finding all that money.
I'll
Council
second,
Paul.
yeah, I'll just second that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Mitchell.
I have not.
Councilman Maroney.
Just for clarification, the 4% we cannot increase, but we can always decrease.
That is correct.
Absolutely, nothing else.
All those in favor of Resolution 1717, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That completes the agenda items for tonight. I want to thank you very much for coming. The meeting is adjourned.